सब्सक्राइब कीजिए ध्येय IAS चैनल को और बेल आइकन को दबाइए लेटेस्ट वीडियोस सबसे पहले देखने के लिए।
The United Nations this year has completed 75 years. It is a historic moment. And to commemorate this, world leaders come together on Monday at a one-day high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly. The meeting was themed as "The Future We Want, the UN We Need, Reaffirming Our Collective Commitment to Multilateralism." It was for the first time in 75 years the 193-member body would be holding the session virtually on account of the COVID-19 outbreak. In today's edition of our DNS, we will be talking about the United Nations, its birth, along with its achievement and failures in the past 75 years. The United Nations meeting with its 193 member countries looked back at the glorious years of the UN and remarked upon its achievements as well as failures. It also set out its goal for the next decade. The upcoming 10 years have been designated as the decade of action and delivery for sustainable development. It will be the most critical of our generation. The goals have been set for the next 10 years. It includes protection of the planet and environment, promoting peace, gender equality and women empowerment, digital cooperation, and sustainable financing. Now moving further, let us know how was the United Nations born. The United Nations was born out of the horrors of World War II. At the time of its foundation, it was primarily tasked with the goal of maintaining world peace and saving future generations from the evils of war. The League of Nations was created back in June 1919 after World War I as part of the Treaty of Versailles. However, when the Second World War broke out in 1939, the League closed down and its headquarters in Geneva remained empty throughout the war. Unfortunately, the League of Nations was incompetent in maintaining peace among the nations. Consequently, in August 1941, American President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill held a secret meeting. The heads of the two countries discussed the possibility of creating a body for international peace effort and a range of issues related to the war. Together, they issued a statement that came to be called the Atlantic Charter. It was not a treaty but only an affirmation that paved the way for the creation of the United Nations. It declared the realization of certain common principles in the national policies of their respective countries on which they based their hopes for a better future of the world. The United States joined the war in December 1941, and for the first time, the term United Nations was coined by President Roosevelt to identify those countries which were allied against the Axis powers. On January 1, 1942, representatives of 26 allied nations met in Washington, D.C. to sign the Declaration of the United Nations, which basically spelled out the war objectives of the Allied powers. Over the next couple of years, multiple meetings took place among the Allied Big Four, the United States of America, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and China, to decide on the post-war charter that would describe the precise role of the United Nations. The United Nations finally came into existence on October 24, 1945, after being ratified by 51 nations, which included 5 permanent members, that is France, the Republic of China, the Soviet Union, the UK, and the US, and 46 other signatories. The first meeting of the General Assembly took place on January 10, 1946. The 4 main goals of the United Nations included maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, achieving international cooperation in solving international problems, and being the center for harmonizing the actions of nations in the attainment of these common ends. Now, moving further, we will know about the achievements and failures of the UN in the past 75 years. At the time of its formation, there were only 51 member states. Independence movements and decolonization in the subsequent years led to an expansion of its membership, and at present 193 member countries are a part of the UN. It has also expanded its scope to resolve over a large number of global issues such as health, environment, women empowerment, among many others. Soon after its formation, it passed a resolution to commit the elimination of nuclear weapons in the year 1946. In the following years, in 1948, it created the World Health Organization to deal with communicable diseases like smallpox, malaria, and HIV. At present, the WHO is the apex organization that is dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. Following this, in 1950, the United Nations created the High Commissioner for Refugees to take care of the millions who had been displaced due to World War II. It continues to be on the front lines of crisis faced by refugees from countries across the world. In 1972, the United Nations Environment Program was created. Very recently, back in 2002, the United Nations established the UN Criminal Court to try those who have committed war crimes, genocide, and other atrocities. The UN has also gathered its share of criticism. Back in 1994, the organization failed to stop the Rwandan genocide. In 2005, UN peacekeeping missions were accused of sexual misconduct in the Republic of Congo, and similar allegations have also come from Cambodia and Haiti. And lastly, in 2011, the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan was unsuccessful in eliminating the bloodshed caused in the civil war that broke out in 2013.